Okay, let's get this out of the way immediately before I even introduce the tier list. Last Wish is unironically the worst runeword for a solo cell found run by far. Not only is it locked behind a bear rune and a Sur rune, but 3 jar runes as well. The mods on this are all good if you're playing a melee character, but there is no way you will ever make this on a normal playthrough. Which is something that I will be taking into account harshly during this. Even worse, you are actively sabotaging yourself by going for it. You see, the goal of your journey is defeating Hell Baal. By far the most challenging part about this is surviving all the stuff in between the rogue encampment and his corpse. By the time you will have farmed 3 jar and a burr, you could have easily already died of old age. But not only that. If you beeline it straight to Last Wish, you are skipping out on tons of better runewords that I'm going to talk about later. Alright, with that out of the way, welcome to my weapon runeword tier list. Like everything on this channel, this is focused on hardcore solo self-found playthroughs of the game. Things will apply to softcore as well, but the focus is on hardcore. No matter if you are new to the game and want some tips to wade your way through a vast sea of overwhelming runewords, cause there are 56 runewords for just the weapons, which is a crazy amount to get started in. Or have been playing for 23 years and just want to tell me how wrong I am in the comments. Let's dive in and question Blizzard's design choices. First up, steel. What better way to start than with a weapon that is the exact opposite of Last Wish. For just a tier and an L rune you can make steel. For a runeword you can easily farm off the counters in normal, you get a ton of stats. 20 enhanced damage, 3 to min and max, 50 attack rating, 50% chance of open wounds, 25 increased attack speed, 2 mana after each kill and 1 to light radius. It's easy to get a base for this as well, cause you can make it in swords, axes and maces that you can just buy from NPCs. All of that available at level 13 for the cost of an L and a tier rune. Sign me right up. This is fantastic for your early game melee barbarians, druids and paladins. The damage on it is quite low, but the open wounds compensates for that. It does fall off by the time you get to the end of normal and into nightmare, which is the only thing preventing this from jumping straight into S tier. However, all of that for that cheap, an easy A tier. Steel is fantastic. Next up, we have another solid contender. Malice is comprised out of the runes Ith, L and Eth, which can all be gotten from the counters in normal. It has a bit of enhanced damage and 9 maximum damage, which is cute and all, but there are some seriously powerful mods on here. There is 25% to minus target's defense, but that still isn't the real stuff. Malice has a 100% chance of open wounds and prevent monster heal. That seems reasonable, right? Well, no. This weapon is about as reasonable as punching someone in the face and then telling them it's their fault for breathing in the same air as you. People use this to kill the Ubers. Is Last Wish better at it? Yeah, sure it is. But that is 3 jars, a bear and a Sur rune. This is an Ith, an L and an Eth. And while you are a bit slower, you get style points while laughing your way all the way to the bank. But Nuclear Rabbit, it has 5 life drain. Surely that balances it out. No, it does not. When items in video games have downsides, they have those because the developers think they screwed up. As a general gaming tip, if you ever play a game and see an item with a small downside, take it and slap all your enemies around with it, like you want to slap Andariel in all the right places. Cause that is just the development team's way of saying, we think this is too strong, but we ran out of interest in fixing it. Malice allows you to watch everything bleed to death while you laugh at them for the price of doing a couple countess runs and buying a flail from Farah. If it wasn't clear yet, this goes into the S tier. Use it on every melee character you play to kill the bosses. You will not be disappointed. Strength is made up of Am tier, which means you might get it from the Hellforge in normal. But otherwise this is a weapon you get from the countess in Nightmare. Getting a base for this is easy, you can just buy one from an NPC cause it goes in all weapons. Just grab the fastest one you can, cause this weapon is all about triggering that delicious 25% crushing blow. There is some other stuff like a bit of damage, lifesteal, some stats and 2 to mana per kill here as well. But it's all filler, I would trade all of those in to get even a measly 1% extra crushing blow. This is a solid budget melee character weapon you can use to play through the game. But it will get outclassed by some of the later entries on this list. All in all, a solid B tier weapon. Speaking about things that outclass strength. Next up we have Black. Black consists of Thule, Eo and Nev in a mace or hammer and it gets you a solid 120% enhanced damage, 40% crushing blow, some vitality and some lightning resist. However, this weapon has a big downside depending on how you like to play, cause the Nev rune in this weapon gives it knockback, which will knock a monster back, making you have to run after it. There are 2 camps about knockback. On the one camp you have people that despise this mod on a weapon as much as being reminded about how they always got picked last in gym class. In the other camp, you have the beautiful, smart and sexy people that are correct and just use the knockback to make all the monster stepsisters stuck in a corner. If you couldn't tell yet, I think it's pretty good as a way of getting some crowd control. Nothing worse than just being fully pounded by a bunch of monsters with no way out until they are done with you. The other way to deal with it is to use this on a character that has knockback anyway, like a smiter or a kicksin. If you really can't deal with it, just use it to kill the act bosses, cause those can't be knocked back anyway. What's keeping this weapon back from the S tier but into the A tier is that while you can find an IO rune from the Countess in Nightmare, it will probably take a while. Still, the A tier is where black goes. Cause if you haven't tried out this weapon yet, try it. After all, we all know that once you go black, you don't go back. Which is obviously based on this rune word and nothing else. Jokes like that should give you some great insight into my sense of humor. Insight, which consists of Ral, Tyr, Tel and Sol and can be made in a polearm or a stave, is one of those rune words that just makes me think they stopped trying to balance things. This gives its wearer a level 12 to 17 meditation aura, which will straight up end every single mana problem you were having on the spot. If it only did that, it would already be a very usable item, but it does much more. It rolls with 200 to 260 enhanced damage and 1 to 6 critical strike with some poison damage thrown in for good measure. So give one to your friends, your kids and your partner. Seriously, this thing is so powerful, you should probably give one to your pet just to make sure everyone can get in on the action. Those are all melee mods, but if your A caster don't, you worry. Insight still has you covered. 35 faster cast rate, plus 5 to all stats, 2 mana after each kill and infinite mana sound good to you. Cause it sure as shit does to me. Oh, and it has 25 MF as well. Seriously, make this rune word in every single polearm you find. Then use its overpoweredness to kill your friends and take theirs as well. That is how good this is. This puts the S in S tier, so that is where it goes. Next up is a new one that got introduced in one of the latest patches. Unbending Will, which consists of a Val, Io, Ith, Eld, El and Hel and goes into only 6 socket swords. This sword is the definition of my love life. It looks very impressive with its big damage and 20 to 30 increased attack speed, making everything happen very quick. But the problem here is that it's very difficult to find a base for this while you want it. By the time you get one, you'll be in hell where much better items can drop. Base wise you also only get phase blades and colossus blades that are worth it. There are some medium things like a dimensional blade or an executioner's sword that you can use, but the damage on those will suck. Oh, before I forget to talk about it, the taunt procs are decent. Nothing wrong with those. This would be much stronger if it was a 5 socket sword rune word, cause that would give it much more options for bases, or just make it all weapons or something. Cause as is, this isn't worth it. I didn't even mention it, but there are much better things to do with a Val rune as well. So it's overly expensive and not very impressive at all. It's gonna go in C tier. Passion is a very special rune word. It has some damage and everything. But the big things here are that it gives +1 to Zeal and +1 to Berserk, allowing other classes to use those skills, which especially the Enchant Sorceress can make great use of. It also boosts attack rating quite a bit to help out with that. Unfortunately, that's kind of all this weapon does, and it even sabotages itself by having hit causes monsters to flee. This is one of those rune words that I really want to like, but it's just not that good, only useful on very specific builds and costs a Lem rune as well, which is far better spent in something like a treachery for a build that wants this. So it's not exactly free either. I struggled to come up with where to put this, but I'm going C tier on this one. It's just too niche and the self-sabotage really hurts its effectiveness. Which is too bad, cause this is really cool. I wish we had more weapons like this in the game. We do have one more weapon like that though. And it's another one that is really sweet, but unfortunately not that good. I am talking about Rift, which is Hel, Go, Lem, Gol, and goes into polearms and scepters. This is the most trigger happy weapon in the game, giving you chances to proc both Tornado and Frozen Orb on attacking. It also adds attack rating, magic damage, stats, extra dex, damage to mana. There is a lot of good, cool stuff going on. And this is a solid weapon for a Zealot. The assassin even has entire build named after this, which uses kicks to spam the procs. The Rifsin is definitely the best way to go with this. There are downsides though. Go, Lem and Gol are runes you can spend better elsewhere. At least you can get them from your Hellforge, which saves it a bit on costs. Everything over a Gol is basically never happening unless you do some serious grinding or get lucky. The Iron Maiden charges aren't that good either. All in all, a very cool, stylistic and fun rune word. But you need to really commit to want to use this, otherwise there is just better stuff out there, which means it's headed straight for C tier. I feel like now is a good time to mention the big ones everyone is waiting for. Grief, Death, Breath of the Dying, Wind, Chaos, Fury, Plague, Heart of the Oak, Fortitude, Infinity, Wrath, Brand, Faith, Famine, Ice, Phoenix, Hand of Justice, Pride, Call to Arms, Beast, Eternity, Destruction, Doom, Mist, Obsession, Silence, and especially Last Wish. Almost every single one of these is game-breakingly good. But on a normal playthrough, you will never have these cause of the rarity of the runes in them. But if you do get them, have fun stomping the game, cause these items solo everything without any problems. I just want to point out that it is absolutely possible to get these. And if you do, you should use them. But don't count on these rune words unless you are willing to do some very hard grinding sessions. I'm talking days or weeks of grinding for just one single item. But if you're willing to do it, they are the best of the best. So I'm putting all of them in their own special tier called You Will Never Find These. But if you do, enjoy them for all they are worth. However, something I have a hard time enjoying is the runeword pattern. It's not like there is anything wrong with this, it's just kind of there. I had completely forgotten it even existed until I started making this tier list. The most interesting thing about this is that this was in Lord of Destruction, but they just didn't activate it until Resurrected. I digress, pattern is Tel or Tol for Cathars, which is just extremely specific, making it only usable for assassins, which is sad. Cause for what it's worth, this is actually pretty powerful, some enhanced damage, elemental damage, some stats and 15 resist all. Just looking at it, this seems perfectly reasonable, but getting a Tol rune in normal is big ask. And you would want to use it in another rune word anyway, and in Nightmare, where you can get them consistently, this has already fallen off hard. If only this was Tel or Trell instead of Tel or Tol. Cause that would allow it to be gotten in Act 1 normal, and it would see a ton of usage. Oh well, it isn't, so to C tier it goes. A weapon that is definitely not going in C tier however is Oath. Oath is the end all be all rune word for the melee player with reasonable expectations. It requires a Shale, a Pull, a Mal and a Lum, most of which you will likely have to grind for. But if you do, Oath definitely lives up to the hype. This rune word absolutely slaps. This is the endgame for every single melee build you will ever do a solo run with. You prefer making this in an ethereal base, but even in a non-ethereal base it does fine. So what does it do exactly? Well, everything. First off, it has an absolute fuck ton of damage. Seriously, 210 to 340 are some serious making demons taste their own face through their ass kinda numbers. And I know that sounds like it should be about on par with Unbending Will, except it's not. Cause this also gets to go into ethereal weapons, giving it another 50% boost. And to top it all off, it also has 50 increased attack speed, an extra 75 damage and 100 attack rating to specifically demons. Just to make sure that they know that you know it's okay to be racist to demons, cause they aren't humans, so they don't count. You also get to use Heart of the Wolverine and an Iron Golem, which is something I had a lot of fun with when I played my Summon Barbarian. Be warned though, you can't repair charges on an ethereal item. But yeah, Oath just does it all. Easiest S tier of my life. Zephyr is a decent enough rune word all around for an Ort and an Add in a bow or crossbow you get some damage. Chance to cast Twister and some quality of life with the faster run walk. This is decent enough for its level requirement, but nothing special. Just B tier written all over it, so that's where it goes. Memory has the potential to give you +9 to energy shield, but even if you get just the +6 from it, that is still crazy strong. None of the runes in this are hard to find, cause you can farm a Lum rune from the Countess in Hell. Really, the only thing holding this back from S tier is how niche this is. S tier is only intended for the cream of the crop, and this being sorceress only kind of excludes it from that. But I'll easily give this A tier, because when you play an energy shield sorceress, nothing even comes close. This thing on its own makes an Immortal Sorc playthrough viable, which is just proof of how big its game actually is. Melody, which is a 3-socket bow rune word for the runes Shale, Ko and Nev, gives +3 to bow skills and 20 increased attack speed with some knockback. If you are playing as a fire or coal based Amazon, this is an easy way to get up to +6 to skills from your weapon. The problem however is that it's competing with so many other uses of a Ko rune and it's only good on exactly those builds, which makes it a B tier item to me. I could see this easily moving up to A though, depending on how much you like elemental bow Amazons, keeping up with the trend of very niche but very strong items. Next up we have White. White is made with the runes Dal and Io, allowing you to farm it in Nightmare if you take the time to do so. Which you should, cause even though it's only intended for necromancers, this rune word is crazy strong. It starts off with +3 to poison and bone skills, 20 faster cast rate, 2 to bone spear, 4 to skeleton mastery and 3 to bone armor. And while the skeleton mastery is a bit out of place, just the others are already well worth the price of admission. But one of the big upsides to this is that you can just shop for a base with Drognen in Act 2 normal to look for the skills you want, allowing you a very consistent way to get an extremely powerful item. Not only is this good for your journey up to Hellbale, there is literally nothing better if you want to play as a Bone Necro. If you get the right skills, this is it. Endgame GG gear and all of that for a doll and an IO rune. Chef's kiss, can't add anything. Get this on all your Necro runs, it's that good. White goes straight into S tier. And this is as good of a time as any to talk about another fantastic Necromancer weapon. But this time it's for the summoner. Edge is a bow and it's kinda cute on an Amazon. But where this weapon truly shines is on a summoner thanks to its level 15 Thorns aura when equipped. In ye older Lord of Destruction times this wasn't very impressive at all. But because of the way they buffed Thorns in Diablo 2 Resurrected, using a Thorns aura on a summoner now takes every single minion and whips the power up to 11. It's at its absolute best on a Necromancer, but don't be afraid of using this on a Summon Druid either. The downside to this is that you can't use a shield, so you'll end up being really frail. But I'll take it straight to the S tier bank either way. Edge is amazing, criminally underrated, and you should try it. Speaking about taking it all the way to the bank, it is time to talk about Hustle. Hustle is one of the new rune words introduced in one of the latest D2R patches, and as a weapon it's solid. Level 1 fanaticism can help you break through some attacking breakpoints. It has a bunch of damage and a huge quality of life stat in the 5% chance to cast level 1 burst of speed. Good enough to be put in B tier I suppose. If you happen to find a second co-rune during your travels, definitely consider using it to make a hustle. Your first one however should go into obedience, cause goddamn this thing slaps. I mean just look at this, a guaranteed 370 enhanced damage. Cold damage to help with crowd control, 25 minus enemy fire resist if you're a fire build. Fucking 40% chance of crushing blow, 20 to 30 resist all. And even a chance to cast enchant to improve the damage and attack rating even further. If all of that hasn't sold you, no worries, cause there is more. This also has 40 faster hit recovery, a bunch of stats, minus 25% target defense. Still not convinced? It also has some extra defense and minus 20% requirements. Seriously, this is the kind of rune word that makes me think that all of Blizzard's balancing efforts are designed in a crack house after powerballing hard enough to try and speedrun a meet and greet with their personal deeds of valor screen. So, to sum it all up, yeah, obedience is pretty good. Let's go and get rid of the last few mediocre minis before finishing with a bang. King's Grace, which consists of Am, Ral and Tal in a 3-socket sword or scepter is fine. That is all I can say about it. It's like butter on bread. Serviceable, yet nothing special, so in the B tier it goes. What I don't like on my bread however is Venom, cause this is just trash. It requires a Mal rune, which is no small ask, and it gives you absolutely nothing. And to make it even worse, it sabotages itself with hit causes to flee. They should have at least given it Corpse Explosion instead of Poison Explosion. But not even that could be done for this. I have never in my life been in a situation where I thought Venom might even be just a little smidgen of good. This item is so bad that the developers actually felt guilty and made Mosaic, which is coming up next. I am creating the F tier just for this. What a piece of trash. Do not use this. Like I said, next up is Mosaic. Mosaic is a weird one, cause it's reasonably attainable. You could get your Gull from the Hellforge and farm the rest of it from the counters without too many problems. It's not as hard to find as the rune words that I put in the never finding this tier, but it's pretty close to that. But my rule of thumb is that everything using a Gull or lower is attainable in a normal playthrough without going nuts or dying of old age. So what does Mosaic do? Well, it melts your screen, kills your frame rate, burns your eyes and turns the game into complete baby mode. This rune word is so strong that people tried seeing how hard they had to make the game using mods to see just how far it would go. And you know what happened? The game looped around into easy mode cause of a bunch of technical stuff before this rune word got into trouble. I am not kidding. Mosaic is so strong you literally cannot make the game hard enough for it. Mosaic Sin is the best Uber killer. It's the best 99 grinder. It's the best Terror Zone runner. Mosaic Sin makes Hamadins, Javazons and Blizzard Sorks look like tedious characters built by a 5-year-old who doesn't know what he's doing cause he got dropped on the head too often. I don't know what to tell you. Mosaic is so much better than every single other item in the game. It makes Grief look like someone using a wet noodle to attack. And if Obedience was them trying to balance the game in a crack house, Mosaic is them retrying again after staying there for 20 years. Or to put it in more Diablo-like terms, Mosaic is the developers of Diablo 3 and 4 not understanding how Diablo 2 works and functions but trying anyway. Don't get me wrong, I really like Diablo 3 and 4. I enjoy both of them and now they have mostly fixed up Diablo 4. I think it is a very enjoyable game. But those games are made by a different generation of gamers that does not appreciate the fine meticulous work of art, beauty and atmosphere combined with the vivid slot machine addiction wired so deep into my membrane that it is pushing out all other functions of life, that is Diablo 2. Mosaic is like putting modern art into a Renaissance museum. It's still beautiful, fun, entertaining, and I can deeply respect it for what it is. But it's just as much in the wrong place as I was when I tried hanging out with a bunch of teenagers again. The idea and spirit are there, but it's just too different. Let the kids have their fun, but please don't change the classics of a former generation. What I'm trying to say is, well, Mosaic is so strong that I feel it shouldn't be in this game. But every once in a while solving a jigsaw puzzle with a flamethrower is fun, so yeah. To the S tier it goes. No, wait, it doesn't belong in S. It should be even above that. S plus it is. Holy Thunder is really not as impressive as its name might make you think. This runeword is fine. For an Etral, Ort and Tal rune you get some damage, some elemental damage, plus 3 to Holy Shock and enough lightning resist to make you resistant to Zeus himself throwing a lightning bolt in your face. It's good at level 21, but to use it there you will likely need to use a socket quest, which is a big ask. But all in all, a solid B tier contender. Kingslayer is just Oath with extra steps. It's harder to find cause of the goal rune. It has less attack speed, less enhanced damage and can't be made in an ethereal base. It compensates for all of that by having crushing blow and open wounds though. I've never had the honor of finding this one during a run, but I'm sure I could do some things with this that would make the Lannisters proud. And I wouldn't even have to sleep with my sister to do them. I would put this in the S tier, but it's the hardest to get runeword that I'm considering achievable. And for that I'm knocking it down a peg to A tier. I might as well talk about Honor next. Honor has +1 to skills, 160 damage, life leech, deadly strike and some other stuff that barely matters. The only problem with it is that it needs to go in a 5-socket base, which you won't naturally start finding until way past when Honor is your best option. If they would have just made it a 4-socket runeword instead of a 5-socket one, this would have been very high in the A tier, cause it is very good. But item bases for it are hard to come by at level 27, which knocks it down to B tier for me. Just a few more to go, so let's talk about Harmony. Harmony is fine on a bow Amazon, level 10 vigor for help with kiting and a bunch of damage and +2 Valkyrie skills are all excellent. No notes there. But this has so much more purpose. Bindleskin runners put this on their weapon switch to run faster. Shopping for an item and running around for hours? Better wear this. In town? Better wear this. Level 10 vigor is just always so nice that everyone wants it every chance they get, having to do a lot of farming but refuse to buy a teleport staff like a massively based Chad. For the price of just a single co-rune, you can use this instead. Is it better? No, not at all, but style over substance, there is no better pick. But the biggest thing on this is the level 20 revive charges, if you want to do a hardcore solo run to the Ubers as a not a paladin and don't want to spend your time farming until eternity opens. This is the runeword for you. Speedrunners are using the revive charges to run the Ubers on a budget. I haven't been able to pull that off yet, but maybe you can. The only downside here is that it is yet another runeword fighting for a co-rune, which aren't exactly very common to begin with. As just a bow for an Amazon however, I give this an A ranking. You can absolutely use this, but you would be better off with an insight. Crescent Moon. No, not that one. This one. This Crescent Moon is an excellent sword. Taking an rune is a bit rough, cause those are heavily fought over as well during runs, but nobody will blame you if you go for this runeword. With its 180 to 220 damage, ignore target's defense and 20 increased attack speed. This is already a solid contender to chop off a few of Bale's favorite tentacles. However, where this weapon really gets its kick is the 7% chance to cast level 13 static field, immediately granting every melee character using this an amazing form of AoE damage. That is all fine and dandy. But if you really want to pimp slap some people with this, give it to a lightning build cause it has -35 to enemy lightning resistance built in as well. I mean, this weapon isn't the endgame choice for some Nova builds and every Holy Shock zealot on the planet by accident. So it shouldn't be a shocking revelation that this is going straight into S tier. Am I the only one that feels like Crescent Moon and Lawbringer are like a pair of swords that belong together? I don't know why, but I've always just associated these weapons with each other. I digress. Lawbringer is made of an Am, Lem and a co-rune. And for the price of admission, this weapon is fantastic. Lawbringer is like a surgeon's tool. It's very specific in what it wants to be used for, but does what it's supposed to the best in the entire game. This weapon has a couple of numbers on there where it mumbles and rumbles about damage and such, but this weapon isn't about that. This weapon is about so much more. Where Oath is casually racist against demons, Lawbringer is 1930s levels of politics actively racist against the undead. Oath tries to be kind of subtly ashamed of it, but Lawbringer is having none of that. It comes storming out of the gate in its grey uniform after recently having replaced its Mercedes-Benz 770 for a brand new Tesla. Gone are the subtleties of the Nazi regime. Lawbringer brings segregation straight back by actively pushing away every single undead in the existence of the game thanks to its sanctuary aura. And if that wasn't enough, which mind you, it absolutely is, don't worry, there is plenty more. Lawbringer also sports a mildly reasonable 20% chance to cast Decrepify. For those of you not fully up to date on the Diablo lingo in the back, Decrepify is the skill that Bale casts on you while you wait for his servants to mysteriously explode into nothingness. Oh, and it also breaks physical immunes while it's at it. There is a downside though. If you use this, you won't really have any damage, cause this has no enhanced damage of its own. There is some fire and cold damage here, but it is far from enough to really work through the game with. Unless you are a barbarian, cause this is the most broken second weapon in the existence of the game, and we are not going to mention the implications of the burly bald man being able to use the Sword of Segregation to maximum effectiveness, cause I would never imply a thing like that. Anyway, I'm taking a point off cause of the no damage thing and needing to be your second weapon, but if you can afford to wear this, you should. But let's turn things over another leaf. Leaf isn't the strongest rune word you will ever find, but when the buy-in is a Ral rune, it doesn't need to be. For the price of a Ral rune you get +3 to fire skills, an additional +3 to Inferno, Warmth and Firebolt, some cold resist and 2 mana after each kill to make sure you can keep using those fancy fire spells. Just buy a staff from Makara in Act 1 and go to town. No wait, that works the other way around. Anyway, this rune word is good and gets S tier just of how easy it is to get. You should use it on every single fire based character you can until you get really into the spirit of things. I don't even know how to review spirit. Everyone who can read knows this is broken. We all knew it was broken the day Blizzard showed it to us. I make this in almost every single run I do. And for good reason, it's the best, most consistent item to get. It's not Mosaic levels of strong, but it makes up for that in all sorts of other ways. It gets +2 2 skills, 25 to 35 faster cast rate, a pile of life and mana, enough faster hit recovery to recover from attacks before your opponent even thinks of punching you. So what does all of this cost you? A couple of high runes? Surely? Nope, nothing like that, just an M rune. You can have this in normal. The base requires you to use a socket quest, but every single sword that drops in the secret cow level on normal can be used to guarantee 4 sockets. If you don't get it in normal, you are guaranteed to get it in nightmare. It's insultingly easy how the game just shoves spirit in your face. I have done 2 self-found hardcore hell runs without vitality so far, and on both of them I used spirit, cause it's just the best. This is joining Mosaic in the S+ tier. There is not a single character build or run that can't use a spirit. Your absolute worst case is a +2 skills on your weapon swap for if you're buffing or summoning things. Spirit is ridiculously powerful, very easy to consistently get. Every build wants it and I can think of no better weapon to crown the best of the best. If Mosaic is your faraway king, Spirit is your local gang member running things. No matter what you do, you will run into it. And there you have it. I will put the final tier lists on the screen so you can take a bit to read them. Don't be afraid to pause the video, it's a lot of text after all. Do you agree with these rankings? Are there things you would rank differently? Do you finally see your way through the myriad of options the game throws at you without telling you? And does it make you feel ready for hell? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, with that, I am going to get out of here. If you're still watching, please check if you're subscribed, cause it really helps out the channel. And I will see you all in the next one.